Everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of the Halftime Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, Reese Kinder, coming to you with all the action. This episode, we are actually going to be doing a special episode. This is going to be talking about the Carolina Panthers. We actually have special guests from ESPN 99.9 The Fan and the Panthers Playbook, Dennis Cox. Dennis, how you doing?
No, doing well. Appreciate you having me on, Reese.
Yeah, big episode today, guys. Obviously, I'm a Panthers fan. Dennis does a lot of North Carolina media and also Panthers stuff. So we're going to be highlighting the Panthers' last game against the New Orleans Saints, where they dropped that one 17-7. But first, we're going to go to that intro. So we've got a lot to unpack, but let's get right into it, and let's go to the intro. All right, Dennis. So 17-7, final score. The Panthers lost to the New Orleans Saints, and the Panthers offense just struggled yet again. Bryce Young, the question is looming. Can he, obviously be a serviceable quarterback for the Carolina Panthers?
Well, the question is how you define serviceable.
Yeah.
That's the question. Is serviceable in what way? Serviceable in the sense of if the running game is going and the defense is playing great and you just want him to be a game manager and not turn the ball over, then yeah, he can be serviceable because that's how they've won games with him this year.
Yeah.
So that's the question. Like, how do you define serviceable? But if you're looking at someone who can elevate the team when the run game isn't there, or if you have to throw the ball 35 times in a game because, yeah, hey, you fall behind a couple scores early and you have to throw your way back into it, can he do that? He hasn't shown that yet in his career. So, again, it just depends on how you define serviceable. But we have seen from him that as basically a game manager,
Yeah.
do okay in that regard, but you need more, especially if a guy that was #1 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously going into this week, I've seen a lot on social media as of late, just like talking about the Falcons game and also just some of the games last year where we saw Bryce really step up, become the quarterback that people thought could be a franchise type quarterback. And then this year, it just seems like all that talk went away, and he's kind of, just thrown. We've only seen one game where he's thrown for 300 yards, and that was the Cardinals game. And you see
The only game he's been over 200 yards.
yeah,
as well.
and we see like most of these games, it's about what 130 passing yards against Green Bay. Yes, we won that game, but still Green Bay, if they had a good enough offense in that game, they would have won that game for sure. And I know Jordan Love still is obviously upset with his performance in that game. If he didn't throw those interceptions, I think the Packers would have won that game. But it comes down to it as well, like against the Saints. Some of those passes look like rookie year Bryce Young. They look like rookie year Bryce Young when he had those mistakes where he couldn't hold on to the ball. He would turn it over in crucial situations, and it just really hurt the Panthers in big moments. And we saw that Sunday. And I'm not going to take anything away from the defense, but I mean, I also heard the interview from Nick Scorton. He said some of these guys were lackadaisical during practice, and I almost knew that was going to happen because I felt like when Cam was there too, they did that a lot where they would go into a game against a team that's 1-8, 2-7, something like that, and they would be like, "Oh, we can easily beat these guys. We're 5-4. We're pushing for a playoff spot. We can easily beat these guys. They have a new quarterback, basically just a new team over there on that side." And I think the Panthers overlooked their opponent, and you see what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, in my eyes, they haven't earned the right to overlook an opponent.
Yeah.
You haven't earned that right yet. Maybe if you are Buffalo, or maybe if you are, I don't know, even Kansas City has struggled this year. But if you're one of those elite teams in the NFL, then yeah, you can get away overlooking an opponent because you're talented enough and you can maybe turn it on game day. But the Panthers aren't that.
Yeah.
They're not. Yes, you got a big road win against the Green Bay Packers, but your offense wasn't great in that game. It wasn't. Your offense wasn't great. Like you said, Bryce Young only threw for 102 yards in that game and had a turnover in the red zone. You took points off the board. So that's something that this team can't do. And you mentioned Nick Scorton, who I thought had a phenomenal game against the Saints on Sunday.
Yeah.
And the thing about having a rookie come out and say, yeah, some guys got big-headed. Some guys, maybe forgot what it takes to win in the NFL. And you have a rookie that's saying that. That's definitely cause for concern as well. I know Ike Ekwonu was saying it as well, the starting left tackle. So to hear that It's a little disturbing when you look at it that guys got lackadaisicals. You haven't earned that right yet as a team, especially when you're on the outside looking in a playoff spot. I said this after the win against Green Bay, is that the Panthers have earned the right to be in the conversation of the playoffs. You're 5-4. You earned the right to be in that conversation,
Yeah.
but you haven't earned a playoff spot yet.
Yeah,
But
I
you
mean,
have to validate a win against Green Bay by beating a team that you're supposed to beat in the Saints. You have to, otherwise it's like, well, wait a second, that just becomes an outlier, it becomes a fluke. That's really what it is.
yeah, and I mean, we like I said, going into that game, I almost had a feeling before the game. I was like, this just seems off. I was like, for some odd reason, I feel like the Saints are gonna come in here and get a win because I said this all week. I was like, so obviously I didn't do an episode last week, but if I did, I was gonna say that the Panthers cannot overlook the Saints. I mean, anybody in the NFL, this is why it's a National Football League for professional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's a good player on every team. That's why they sign these contracts. That's why they have these big names and brands. Like, I mean, these players are all good. And, you know, you can't overlook a team. You can even overlook the Jets a few weeks ago. We were talking about, I've heard you guys, Chris Lee and you, Dennis, on the show on the Panthers Playbook. You guys were talking about the Jets game a few weeks ago. You guys were like, you know, well, if the Panthers overlook the Jets will beat us. And the Jets almost did beat the Panthers, and Bryce Young had another lackluster performance.
Yeah, he did. And I know we caught flack from people saying, well, they won. They won. I'm like, well, two things can be true. Yes, you won, but that doesn't mean that you played well. Like, both things can be true. And I think that sometimes that we lose sight of that is the fact that just because it's a win, that doesn't, you know, that automatically means that everything was just okay, that you played great. Like, no, that's not necessarily the case. If you look back at the last 3 starts for the Panthers with Bryce Young at quarterback, you scored 13 points against the Jets, you scored 16 points against Green Bay, and you scored 7 points against the Saints. That's 36 points. That's 36 points in 3 games. That's not good. That's not sustainable. It's not. And that was our warning back in that game against the Jets, is that, that kind of play isn't going to sustain you in the long run. You need to get better from your quarterback. And we caught flack. We're like, well, they still won. I'm like, you can't sustain doing that, because eventually teams are going to look at you like the Saints did and say, if we stop the running game, you stop the Panthers. And that's exactly what happened. Let's also keep in mind that the one touchdown that the Panthers did score, Bryce threw an interception on that play. And it wasn't a good read. It wasn't a good throw. It was a bad interception, but it got overturned because of a roughing the passer call. So we have to keep that in mind as well, is that had an influence, I believe, on Dave Canales' play calling, because that was a down the middle of the field pass about 15, 20 yards downfield, which we have been saying there's been a lack of that. And Dave Canales has spoken before, even as earlier this week on Monday, about how that he'll call more downfield plays when they're more successful with them. And I think when Dave Canales saw that early interception by Bryce, he was like, yeah, I'm not going to call many more of these today. And sure enough, you didn't.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like, if you look at it too, like, and I listened to that interview as well, I was like, well, last year the Panthers threw way more downfield passes. They actually rank better from last year than they do this year in downfield pass rating and basically every passing category. And Dave Canales, I mean, that's another question. Like, I know Dave Canales, I think, is the right coach, but is he, you know, the right coach, like, that can lead the Panthers to a playoff, maybe even a Super Bowl?
That's tough to determine right now, because there's clearly a disconnect with him and Bryce Young. And I say disconnect in the sense of they just haven't clicked. And my co-host Chris Lee has said it on Panthers Playbook that it's like oil and water. They just don't mix. You know, not that maybe that one is that they're both bad, or, you know, whatever it might be, however you want to describe it, but the two together just simply don't work. And that's just, you know, that's the case, unfortunately, with a lot of things. This is life. Sometimes you can have a really great, you know, coach and a really great quarterback, but they just don't see eye to eye. They can't get on the same page, and it just doesn't work together. They might be better separate from each other. That's okay. Now, the question is going forward is, which one do you choose if you're Carolina?
Yeah.
You know, do you choose the quarterback or do you choose the coach? The easier person to replace generally is the coach. But
Yeah.
Carolina is in a situation where they don't have the long-term money tied up with Bryce Young. They'll have to determine this offseason if they want to pick up his fifth-year option. I don't see that. That fifth-year option money, it's fully guaranteed, and I think the number I looked at was right around just over $39 million. I
Yeah.
think is what his fifth-year option would cost. Um, so anyway, it's just those are all things that as Dan Morgan and Brent Tillis have to decide. Like, well, do we try and go for another quarterback in 2027? Because the 2026 draft class
Does
doesn't
not
look
look
like
good.
anything that's good. It's not.
Yeah.
And then, all right, do you want to go with the retread quarterback? Well, I guarantee you a lot of people might be looking to go for Mac Jones from San Francisco, but he has another year left on his contract, so that's going to require a trade. Okay, so now
Hmm.
you got to give up assets to go get him and then potentially sign him at the same time. Do you go after Kirk Cousins, whom I imagine is going to be released by the Atlanta Falcons this offseason? Do you go after Kirk Cousins to be a bridge quarterback for a year? Do you go give like a Jameis Winston or something along those lines? Or do you just stick it out with Bryce again for another year? It's a bad situation that unfortunately the Carolina Panthers have put themselves in terms of quarterback because in my opinion, they've missed. Bryce Young has been a miss, especially with everything you sacrificed to go get him. It's been a miss.
Yeah. Certainly. I really think, like, I mean, I believed in Bryce. Obviously, first year, I was like, well, he's a rookie. We can see what he does. And then last year, when he started to come on strong at the end of the year, I was like, we might actually have a shot next year to make the playoffs. And when we were 5-4, I was like, certainly, yes, we can possibly make the playoffs. And then when we lost that Saints game, I was like, I don't know now because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff about Bryce Young, just, being not the quarterback for the Panthers. And
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like the Panthers the past few years have missed on quarterbacks, or it's just been coaching too. I mean, like Baker Mayfield, look what he's doing in Tampa,
Yeah.
and look what Sam Darnold's doing in Seattle. Like Sam Darnold might win the Super Bowl with Seattle. And a few years ago, you wouldn't say Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but
No, let
now he
alone making it
is.
to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, now you see he's been great, and I feel like ever since Cam Newton, the Carolina Panthers have just missed on quarterbacks. It's just a
They've
consistent thing.
they've spent a lot of assets. If you really look between 2021 and 2023, those three off seasons. Yeah, remember correctly. In 2021 is where they decided to trade for Sam Darnold, like you mentioned. So there was a second round, a fourth round, I think a fifth, whatever it was, or sixth. And
Hmm.
then you got Sam Darnold back in return. I think, maybe like a sixth rounder came back or something along those lines. But then, so you spent those three picks to go get Sam Darnold. And then the next offseason, you traded a fifth round pick to get Baker Mayfield. But at the same time, you used a fourth round pick and a future third to move up in the third round to draft Matt Corral. So you use three picks to get Sam Darnold. The next offseason, you use three picks to get Baker Mayfield and Matt Corral, who never played a snap for your team. And
Yeah.
then in the next offseason, you use 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and DJ Moore to go get Bryce Young. That's 10 picks plus your number one wide receiver to fill one spot on your team.
Hmm.
10 draft picks. And we wonder why this franchise was starved for talent because you use so many high-end assets. A second round pick is a premium pick. A third round pick is a premium pick. First round picks are obviously premium picks. And just those 5 picks, I'm sorry, the 10 picks that I mentioned, 2 were first rounders, 3 were second rounders. Another one was a third. That's
Hmm.
high-end draft capital that
Yeah.
you use to go fill one guy. And that one guy didn't work or hasn't worked. That one guy that you used all that draft capital to try and find is supposed to be a franchise changer, not just hey, he's a pretty decent game manager that, hey, if it's kind of close at the end, he might make a couple throws for us and we can go kick a field goal and win. You don't use all that to go draft that guy.
Yeah. And we've seen like other teams have these guys like Trevor Lawrence, for example. He's been injured. He's had some bad seasons, but still, look at him this year. He's been a good quarterback for the Jaguars. But I have heard talk of possibly, I think Kyler Murray could be the next Panthers quarterback. But to be honest, I would not. I would not enjoy that. And I've seen
No.
Panthers fans, speak their words of wisdom to these analysts that think that Kyler Murray will be the next Panthers quarterback. They're like, if he's the next quarterback, then I'm going to quit being a fan of the team because, and I don't think Dan Morgan's going to put the franchise in that type of situation because Dan Morgan, in my opinion, is one of the best GMs the Panthers have had in recent years. He's made great draft decisions. Like last year's draft class was probably one of the best draft classes we've had in a while.
Yeah, I think overall that Dan Morgan has done a pretty good job. I actually like this year's draft class. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
actually done really, really well. I think Scorton is a really, really good football player. Umam Yellen has the makings to be a high-end contributor. McMillan is on pace for 78 catches and a little over 1,000 yards in his rookie season.
McMillan might win Offensive Rookie of the Year, possibly. I can see
potentially. I mean, he's still behind Emeka Ibuka in Tampa Bay in terms of receiving and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, he's second among rookie receivers in the NFL in terms of yards and all that. So he's been good. And then, again, we talk about the struggles of the quarterback play. It's like, well, that guy's still on pace to catch 78 for 1,050 yards. Imagine if he had higher end quarterback play. So again, I like the trajectory of him as well. I do feel like they found some good contributors with Ransom, with ETN, with Evans. I feel like there are some really good players that they really drafted this year. And I think some of the free agents decisions that he made this offseason are starting to pay off a little bit as well. The Tershawn Wharton up front. I mean, getting Derek Brown back obviously is a massive help, but Trayvon Merrick, who they signed from Vegas, from the Raiders, to be that safety that can come up towards the line of scrimmage and help in the run game, he's been exactly what they wanted. He's been exactly what they wanted and they projected when they signed him this offseason. So I think some of the signings overall have been really, really good. But the question is, can they stack those together long term? And I think overall the roster is pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a ways for it to go. I still think they need a better free safety. I still think there are questions outside of J.C. Horn at corner. I still think the off-ball linebacker position needs to improve. They still overall don't get to the quarterback in terms of the pass rush on a consistent basis at all. I mean, Derek Brown and Nick Scorton are tied for the team lead in sacks with 3 each.
They need one more.
We're week 10,
Yeah, they need one more guy, probably like I would say another top edge rusher. And that's also like, I feel like our team's given up. We gave up Brian Burns a few years ago, and that was like, that was a mistake. But he also wanted too much money for bad team.
Yeah, that was a tough situation because if you signed Brian Burns, it would have prevented you from doing the signings of Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt and some other guys that they did. So that was kind of all right, we know that we're not going to be bad on defense this upcoming year, but that was also the byproduct of the previous regime. Because you go back to 2023 and the roster that was set up with Scott Fitterer and all that, that team was pressed at the top of the salary cap. They were old. They were one of the oldest teams in the league, and they were up near the top of the salary cap. So they had to do some maneuverings, because they cut guys like Hayden Hurst and some of these other guys, Von Bell. Like they had to release all these guys, and then there's that dead cap carryover into 2024. So they just didn't have the money to really maneuver the way they wanted to going forward. But I feel like next year and the year after, their cap situation is going to be a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. I really feel like Dan Morgan will make some of those decisions, but we'll move on now from the Saints game and from the Bryce Young talk. But we will talk about playoffs here. I know that's what me and you both want. We want to see the Carolina Panthers in the playoffs because I have not witnessed a playoff berth since 2017. I think it's been a long time since
it's been a minute.
Since the Carolina Panthers have been to the playoffs. But 5-5, playing Atlanta this weekend. In Atlanta, Bryce Young tends to have, I feel like, decent games when he goes to Atlanta. The last time he played in Atlanta, threw for 5 touchdowns and had an OT win with Miles Sanders running that one in. Mm-hmm. The last time we played, that last game of the year last year. But can the Panthers still make the playoffs?
Mathematically, yes. I think the loss against the Saints, in my eyes, puts you further outside than you think.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the fact that, yes, Tampa Bay lost this past weekend as well to New England. So, okay, you're still one game back in the win column from Tampa Bay. You got to play Tampa twice.
Yeah.
Tampa's a better football team than Carolina, in my eyes. That's how I view it. Tampa is a better football team.
For sure.
But you were in the mix with Seattle, the Rams, as well as the 49ers, all three teams that you have to play coming up as well. And you had the Rams and the 49ers play this past weekend. You get a win against the Saints, you're now pushing against some of those other teams. So I think that puts you back even further from those teams that were sitting at 5, 6, 7 in terms of the wild card. So in my eyes, yes, mathematically they're in it, but the Falcons are going to want to get right or get back game against you after the 30-0 loss earlier this season. They're definitely going to do that. And also the book is out on what Carolina can and can't do offensively. It's just simply is out there right now. Then you have 5 teams, or 5 games against playoff teams. Yeah, you have Atlanta, you have the Saints, but then you have 5 games against playoff teams. Like I said, Bucks twice, and then those 3 teams from the NFC West. It doesn't get easier. I think they have the second toughest remaining schedule left in the NFL.
It's actually the first. I saw that yesterday.
Or is it number 1 now?
Yes,
So it's kind of changed and stuff a little bit. So you're a 5-5 football team. You're an average football team, and you have the toughest schedule coming up.
Yeah,
I don't see this team getting to 10 wins. I mean, 10 wins might not even be enough to get you in, but I don't see this team getting to 10. I just don't.
I could see maybe 8, possibly, maybe 9 if they're lucky. But other than that, like 10 wins is 10 wins. You would have to show drastic changes against the Falcons in order to get to that 10 wins.
But even still, even if you win against the Falcons, you're sitting at 6-5, and you're still outside looking in. You need a lot of help, and then San Francisco is going to look at you and go, all right, you're right on our heels. You're coming into our house on Monday Night Football. They're not going to take you lightly. No one's going to take the Panthers lightly. I think the win against Green Bay kind of showed that, hey, yes, you can lose to this team if you don't play right.
Yeah.
So you're not going to sneak up on anybody. It's not going to be like the Panthers looking at the Saints going, it's just a 1-8 football team. No, you're not going to do that now. You're simply not.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, I believe they still could make the playoffs, but like you said, that Monday night game against San Francisco after Atlanta, I mean, San Francisco can struggle in games. We've seen they've struggled, but I feel like Kyle Shanahan is going to just let his defense destroy Carolina. I mean, the offensive line is really good. I still believe they're really good, even though they kind of struggled against the Saints. I don't know why. But
I think that's a byproduct of the offenses. The book's out again. The Saints dared Carolina to throw.
Yeah,
beat us throwing the ball downfield. We dare you, and they couldn't do it. So now again, it's also Brandon Staley, who's the defensive coordinator at in New Orleans, who used to be the head coach of the LA Chargers.
Yeah,
he's a really good defensive coordinator. At least has been in his career. They just don't simply have the talent in New Orleans because I think that's also a byproduct of years of pushing back salary cap hits. And finally that bill just came due. So that's why they're just void of talent overall on that team. But you look at what the Saints were able to do and their game plan. And when you face more talented teams that can use that same blueprint, I think that's the reason why the offensive line struggled a little bit, is because the Saints made them one-dimensional. They really did. You shut down the run game, put 8 up in the box, try and beat us one-on-one. Panthers can't do it.
And Bryce, until I see, Bryce from last year or even a little bit of signs from that, I mean, I'm not going to believe that this team can, go out and possibly win every Sunday. Because last year, even at 3-8, I still had hope that we might be able to beat teams like the Bucks, or we were close against the Eagles. We should have won the Chiefs game. And I even said this. I was telling somebody, I was like, if the Panthers last year would have had a defense like they do this year, they probably would have won. They probably would have finished the season 9-8, maybe 10-7. Like they realistically could have done that. Because it was just like a bunch of games that they could have won and they lost by like 6 points or less.
Here's the thing I always caution people with when it comes to that stuff, is that, you lost close to the Eagles. You lost close to the Kansas City Chiefs. You lost some of these close games. You also went to overtime against a very bad Giants team that you almost lost. You also went to overtime to win against the Arizona Cardinals. You won another overtime game in there as well. It's like you easily could have lost 3 other games. Like that's just how, again, you went to overtime against Tampa. You easily could have lost 3 games,
Hmm.
So it's just, I always kind of caution people with that. Like when you look at comparative scoring sometimes, in that regard, because I, anyway, that's just kind of how I view it, because the
Yeah.
Giants game easily could have been a loss. The
Yeah.
Cardinals game easily could have been a loss. And now, as opposed to, we're saying, oh, we could have been 7-9, 8 or 7-10, 8-9, 9-8. Well, you easily could have been 3-14 last season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how razor thin the margins are in the NFL.
Hmm. And it's just like, the margins in the NFL have just been, insane the past few years with those razor thin margins, like you said. But yeah, I mean, looking at, the next game now for the Panthers, obviously we talked about playoffs, but hopefully, like we said, hopefully the Panthers can make the playoffs. If not, then we kind of expected it. The expectations in the season were maybe still another rebuild year and then make the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
But going to the Falcons game, this one's a big one on Sunday. I feel like this is a must-win game for Carolina if they want to, say that they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah. If the aspirations are still to make the playoffs, which again, it's within reach. If mathematically look at it, it's within reach. But yeah, this is must win. You have to win against Atlanta. If you lose against Atlanta, you ain't making it.
No,
it's too big of a hill to climb.
I think it would probably end up being a 6-11 season, which would be horrible. But it would probably be a 6-11 season because their only other win I would see is probably the Saints.
Yeah, I predicted 7-10 at the beginning of the season. I said I feel like this team is a 7-9 win range.
Yeah,
is where their range is. I still feel good about that range, but yeah, you got to beat Atlanta. You got to beat New Orleans. You simply have to.
You got to beat the two, just lower echelon teams in the division. You got to beat them first, and then who knows what could happen. Like if they beat Atlanta, they could get confidence and go into that Monday night game. They get an extra day to prepare for San Francisco, and we've seen them this. I mean, I still have confidence in this team. We've seen them go to Philadelphia, almost win a game. We've seen them go to Green Bay, they win a game. We've seen them go places that are tough to play in, and they win or almost win football games. And if they have the product on the field, if Bryce, says if they have one of those meetings, they need to sit down and have one of those team meetings where Bryce is like, guys, my performance has not been the best. I'm going to make it up to y'all. I'm going to start playing better. I'm going to make better reads. I'm going to make better decisions, and we're going to win football games. If he sits down and does that, I think this team can get together and easily win, out of the games they have left. They have 7 games remaining. Out of those games, they need to go 4-3. 4-3 would be great.
If they go 4-3, then you are right on the edge of the playoffs. Because then you finish the season at 9-8. I mean, honestly, 9-8 is a real good season for this team overall.
Yeah,
it is a real good season.
First time being above 500 since I don't know when to end the season. I mean, it might be 2017. Might be the last time. Yeah,
it's been a minute. I know 2018 was a strong start. Then Cam Newton had the shoulder injury, and it's just fell apart since then. But I agree. Like 9-8, it's possible. Ain't gonna be easy. Ain't gonna be easy. I think this upcoming stretch of games will be really telling about how good this team actually is and how far they really do need to go.
Yeah,
I think this next game is going to be really telling about that.
Yeah, certainly.
This last 7 games, I should say.
Yeah, because if you win, like I said, if you win 4 games and even 5 games, if you win 5 games, you're 10-7, and who knows what happens? I mean, you said maybe 10-7 doesn't make it, but to be honest, you got to think about this too. The Seahawks and Rams still have to play each other, I believe, 2 more times.
Yeah.
And then I think the Seahawks play the 49ers at least once, and the Rams play the 49ers at least one more time. And the Cardinals have proven that they can play good some games. They can score. So if they're able to score against teams like Seattle and Los Angeles and even San Francisco, those could turn into losses. And then also Detroit's, I guess, separated themselves from everybody. I feel like they're probably going to be the 1 seed if I had to say. And then the Eagles have struggled. We saw that Monday night game was, oh my gosh, that was awful. Awful Monday night game. That's one of the worst Monday night games I think I've witnessed in recent time. And then The Packers struggle against teams as well. They've lost 2 straight. So just got to see what happens the rest of the season because Panthers are not out of it yet. As long as they beat the Falcons, they can keep themselves in contention.
Like you said, it's a must win for them. Must win.
Yeah, and Bijan Robinson as well in that game. You got to stop him like you did the first game against the Falcons in the bank, and then you got to just hope Michael Penix throws some interceptions and turns over the ball. But yeah, Panthers play the Falcons Sunday, November 16th, guys. If you guys want to tune in that game, it's on Fox. So big game for the Carolina Panthers. But yeah, that's going to wrap up the episode. So Dennis, had fun talking some Panthers football on here. Best of luck with you and Chris and you and Tim as well on the show. Hopefully you guys continue to cover some Panthers wins as the season progresses. But yeah, anything you want to say to the fans?
Yeah, just check us out, 99.9 The Fan. You can look us up on YouTube. That's where you can find a lot of content from 99.9 The Fan. That's where you can find the Panthers Playbook podcast. It's also out wherever you get your podcast, Panthers Playbook. Just give it a search. But YouTube is definitely a place Chris and I, we read through all the comments. We will actually be in the comments talking back with people as well in a fun way. So we like the interaction with people for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys do a lot of work there. You guys are in the action. I mean, you guys are at the locker room and everything doing the interviews. But yeah, Dennis, enjoyed.
It was fun editing. It was fun editing Derek Brown.
Derek Brown. I mean, he always
Derek Brown. That's for sure.
He always seems upset that when we get a loss, he's the first guy to say something about it, and it's fun to hear those interviews from you guys. But guys,
real quick note on that as we wrap up here. I mean, so we also cover the Carolina Hurricanes being located in Raleigh. Mm-hmm. Is that after the loss, the captain Jordan Stahl always talks. Mm-hmm. After a loss, Derek Brown being one of the leaders of the team, he will always talk, which is what a captain and leader is supposed to do. Hey, after the loss, you come talk to me. Yeah. When they win, you can go talk to anyone else. Yeah. If you need to talk to me after a win, that's fine. I'll talk to you as well. But after a loss, I'll be here to face the music, which is what a leader's supposed to do. Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, Derek Brown.
Credit to Derek Brown on that.
Yeah, Derek Brown, great leader on that Panther squad, and really enjoy watching him play some defense for the Carolina Panthers. But guys, that is going to do it for episode 28. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Dennis, again, thank you for coming on. You're a really busy man, so you got a lot going on, but thank you for taking some time out of your day to come on the episode. But guys, I'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the new college football playoff bracket that comes out. Obviously, the new one came out this past week, and it's going to be interesting to see these teams fall into that category. Who's going to make it? Who's in? Who's out? And who's the last 4 in or last 4 out? But guys, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and follow us on social media at @HalftimeSportsTalk_official. I'm Reese Kinder, reminding you it's not halftime, it's your time. Have a great day.